I hit probably about 89th Street, and I saw the tornado. I mean, the entire tornado, everything that was there. It was the largest thing I think I'd ever seen, and I knew at that moment that there was no way we were going to make it. Being afraid to look to my left to see if our building was going to be okay, you know, if it wasn't. And at this point, I really think that I'm probably just going to end up, we're going to be prepared to be digging people out of the daycare that I didn't expect. Anyway, so my husband pulls up to like where he pulls up as close as he can get, you know, and drives under some down power lines and stuff. We're approaching. People are literally coming out of walls of the building. They're not coming out of the front door, they're coming out of walls. And I know that everybody's okay. And I kept saying, you know, people were handing me kids and they haven't handed me my kids yet, you know, but they're like taking kids. And of course, you know, you take them because, you know, I care for these children on a daily basis. So there are a lot of our own kids. And, you know, they finally bring my son, who's 4 now, who was, you know, 2 at the time, and they bring him to me, and I'll never forget what it was like for him for the first time I held him. And he reached out to me, you know, and he's 2 and he doesn't say anything and he can't say anything, but he just squeezes my cheek and he grabs my collarbone and he just squeezes so tight with everything he can. And the director of the center comes out, and she's a little bit she says, I quit, you know, and I'm like, no, you don't quit. This is the only moment. We're not quitting. It's not time to quit. You know, this is, you know, I'm here now. You've done your part. You just stay with me, you know, but we're not quitting. We're keeping going. And they still hadn't, the next day, it almost like there wasn't really ever a time where I stopped and thought about anything. The next day it was, how do we get into the center and start salvaging what's left? You know, that night I made phone calls. The night of the tornado, I made phone calls. I had the book of all the children, and we had several children at Briarwood and several children at Plaza, and those were the kids that we made first phone calls to. And by that time, you know, a lot of the teachers had said, you know, this just doesn't feel like our home. This just doesn't feel like where it's at. And, you know, I sort of had to be a cheerleader that was like, well, you know, this is our home. We'll make it. It'll be us again. Everything will be fine. And it's kind of ironic because I talked to a lot of people, and I talked to people about counseling, and I put my own kids in counseling, and I suggest counseling to everybody else. And I don't think I've ever really thought about the effects or what it, you know, what it's done to me. And it's never really been about like me, you know, of how I felt that day and what it was like that day. I think a lot of people probably think that too. Like, there's always somebody else that had it worse. You know, there's always somebody else that was more important. And